6 months into the war, supposed to take 6 weeks. Where's the president's head on all this?
Pretty frustrated.
I imagine. With whom, though?
Senior Israeli official shared how surprised those officials were from the Netanyahu government when they sat in the Oval Office and heard exactly how clinical he was. That was the term used in the conversations. The president. There wasn't the usual sort of jovial approach to things, very serious, and looking for options, asking for them. The Israelis presented a few. He also met with the Saudi defense minister, Prince Khalid bin Salman, and received some of those. So did J.D. Vance. We know all that happened on Wednesday. So the president is continuing to get input. On the diplomatic front, there's not a lot of traction. There's a lot of talking, texting, calling, but that's not the same thing as actually negotiating anything. And in fact, I know through my sources that the Iranians had declined the first Omani offer to reopen the strait. They're still hoping to get back there. But it's a lot of hope with a strategy that if you increase some bombing, you might persuade a few sort of pragmatic folks in the Iranian government to broker a deal.
And Margaret, in this clinical dissection of options are more military or more economic. Anything else?
And a little diplomacy, but I will tell you,
thrown in. Yeah.
But there's a lot of cynicism about that diplomacy in terms of who you're negotiating with, since the IRGC now remains firmly in control of that country. So it's not that you have broken them from an ideological framework that they have committed themselves to, but rather, can we make it so painful with a blockade and continued bombing? The Israelis were prescriptive to the extent that they offered the advice of bombing land, bridges, and resupply mechanisms on land to the United States. The Saudis, however, are very important partners to the United States, obviously very much vested interest in continuing the flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. They're concerned about the Iranian-backed militias in the area. They are offering and have taken strikes, as you saw, against those Iranian-backed Iraqi militias who are sending drones and missiles into Kuwait and into Saudi Arabia. They've taken action against the Houthis, but they don't want that swatting down to then become an escalation ladder where they get drawn into a full-on conflict. So there's the you hit me, I'll hit you back harder, but no one's looking to really escalate in the form of, for example, ground troops or things that could make a decisive difference at this point. You heard General Kane under oath last week before Congress admit, when pressed, that there are limits to air power in terms of leading to the kind of dramatic change that the Israeli government has long championed, regime change. That line of thinking is still there for the Netanyahu government, but the commitment to actually put troops on the ground to do that are different. They say they want to help lay the groundwork for the Iranian people.
Margaret, based on your reporting, does this feel like a stalemate that is not being recognized as one because no one wants to admit everyone's sort of stuck?
It does. And what stands out to me is the lack of information that's being shared with the American people, not just with the press, but with the public that we see is so frustrated. Anthony Salvanto's polling last week, 78% of Americans said, just cut your losses, get out of this thing, even though they support the goals.
69% say they don't even understand what it's about anymore.
Right, and guess what? So do Republican lawmakers. John Kennedy, who was on Face the Nation Sunday, who said, you want $67 billion, can you tell me what you're going to do with it? Can you tell me what the strategy is? And they're demanding these briefings that just aren't happening. You aren't seeing these closed-door sessions with Secretary of State Rubio and General Kane and the like. You're seeing small visits that are happening. Senator Kennedy said, I'm having breakfast with General Kane. That seems to be the new informing Congress. You get a phone call or a breakfast. Is that really acceptable in treating Congress as a co-equal branch of government, particularly when you're asking the Appropriations Committee for billions of dollars or the Armed Services Committee? So there are a lot of people who want to know, tell me what comes next, and not a lot of answers being provided. All of that seems congested right now, simply in the White House as the president weighs his options. And the Israeli partners in this obviously presented a few. Prime Minister Netanyahu, of course, making clear, though, that it is the United States in the driver's seat. They haven't rejoined this combat operation just yet.